For more on this, we are going to bring in CBS News legal analyst Rikki Klieman. So, Rikki, Weinstein's lawyers filed a letter with the judge basically asking for the lowest sentence possible, which is 5 years, basically saying, you know, he's not in good health, and this is he's a first-time offender. Are these the sort of things that the judge would take into account?
Every judge has to take into consideration what we call aggravating factors and mitigating factors. The mitigating factors for Harvey Weinstein, as articulated by his lawyers, are very clear. His age, his health, and that he is a first-time offender. No matter how many women have come forward, he has only been before the criminal justice system once. On the other hand, we have the aggravating factors, and the letter that the prosecution sent to the court over the weekend is really damning, because it talks not only about the 6 women who testified in this court, but it talks about some 80, 90 people, women, who were abused by him allegedly, either sexually or with power, even if it wasn't sexual. Then it just talks about people, male or female, who worked for him, who were allegedly abused by his throwing things at them and his screaming at them. Nonetheless, not criminal acts, but painting a picture of a man who wielded his power in a very detrimental way to others.
So he faces, as you pointed out and Jurika pointed out in the piece, 5 to 25 years in prison. The third-degree rape count carries a maximum penalty of 4 years. I'm not even clear what his ailments are. I don't know what.
Well, we know he had heart surgery.
We know he recently,
back surgery.
right? He had heart surgery when he was being held at Bellevue before he was transferred to Rikers.
Okay.
So we know that he has a bad heart. We certainly know that he has difficulty walking, and we know that not only by taking his lawyer's word for it and watching him in court, but also because he took a very bad fall at Rikers.
So I'm guessing, and from speaking to you and speaking to others, that the judge, even taking all that into consideration, is still probably going to give Mr. Weinstein a stiff sentence. So when could we expect to see him out of prison?
I don't think we're ever going to see him out of prison, considering his age and his health. You have to remember that his lawyers will say, well, 5 years for him is like a life sentence. I think that the judge, and this is just an educated guess, I could be wrong, we'll know shortly. I think that the judge is going to look at, you've got a 5 to 25-year count plus the 4-year count. So if you really want to look at it, it's 29 years. And he could run those consecutively because you have 2 different victims. If I were a betting woman, I would bet somewhere between 10 and 20. We'll know when by the time I come back and visit with you again later this morning. But you also have to remember he has issues in Los Angeles. There's another indictment in Los Angeles. So it's not over.
So his lawyers are also asking that maybe he spend this time behind bars at a special medical facility for inmates who, you know, need extra protection. What's the likelihood of that happening?
I think there is a likelihood of that. Now you have to remember
that's easier time.
Well, it's safer time.
Okay.
And so a lot of people would say it's easier time because it's safer time. That there are 2 things happening here. Number one is this isn't up to the judge. Where he serves his time is up to the Correctional Association of the state of New York.
I wondered about that.
They designate him. This is a state prison. This is no federal prison where you go to a quote-unquote club fed. He is going into a state prison. A medical facility for him makes sense for 2 reasons. Number one is health, but number 2, frankly, no one wants, as they put it, a repeat of Jeffrey Epstein. No one wants a prisoner as famous and infamous as Harvey Weinstein to become a suicide risk. So he will be watched more if he is, in fact, in a medical facility.
So if we think that he's going to be in a medical facility, and we understand that that is certainly a possibility, he would spend the entirety of his sentence there.
Not necessarily.
Okay.
Excuse me one second.
Sure.
Pardon me. That he has the ability, if designated to a medical facility, to work out of that medical facility.
Interesting.
Will he be? I guess the next step would be, and I know they kind of indicated this after he was convicted, the possibility of an appeal. Is that I don't know if that's something that would happen automatically,
in the midst of while he's going through the thing in LA.
Or does that some? Yeah, I know.
Well, you're dealing with the appeal here. The appeal here is going to take a couple of years because you have 2 levels of appellate courts in New York. And his appeal here has some very, very good issues, beginning with the fact that there was no change of venue. And you can go forward then about the issue of 6 accusers testifying, about the issue of the predatory assault charge, where Annabella Sciorra was a witness who testified against him from something that happened back in 93 or 94. Is that an end run around the statute of limitations? And there are umpteen motions for mistrial, so the record is preserved for Harvey Weinstein. So while the appeal is going on, they can try him in Los Angeles. I mean, that they ought to go forward sooner rather than later. You have victims in Los Angeles County who deserve justice. So the district attorney has an obligation to them to go forward with those cases. So what would happen logistically, he's a state prisoner of New York. He would get shipped in custody to L.A. He's on loan to L.A. In L.A., he serves time in a jail while the trial goes on, and then he is shipped back to New York, because even if he is convicted in L.A., his sentence would follow the New York sentence.
Man, all right, Rikki, thank you so much.
Thanks,
That's
Rikki.
all right.
I guess, yeah,
Excuse
we'll
my
have you
little
back later.
frog in my throat.
No,
It's
no,
gone
that's okay.
now.
Happens to me all
It
the time.
hopped away.
I know. Good to see you, Rikki.